Everything is expensive right now, but the ride you take to work, to the airport, home from the bar, that's climbing higher than almost anything. Uber's CEO was asked where that money's going.
Well, I think it is about inflation. Our drivers need to make a living.
And maybe he's right. So check. Pull up a fare and do the math. The problem is you can't check. Since 2022, Uber uses an algorithm no one outside the company can see to set wages and fares. In 2024, I ran an experiment with 7 drivers. Different pay for the same rides. Uber said we got it wrong. In 2026, Consumer Reports tested the other side. 174 riders. Same trip, different prices, fake promotions. Uber said they got it wrong. Drivers have been pooling receipts. Not 7, not 174, millions. But one driver noticed charges that don't add up the way they should. Same driver, same ride, different charges.
So somebody's getting rich off of it? Not me, not the passenger.
Every one of those charges comes out of the same place, the fare you pay. So I started to investigate, and it led me places I never expected. An Ivy League business school, a little-known insurance company in Hawaii, and an amendment to a transportation bill. None of it looks connected, but it all ends up on the same receipt. Yours.
I would say that Uber driving is the best job I've ever had.
Levi Spires used to be an accountant. Now he drives for Uber.
There's a sense of freedom to it that I never got making Excel spreadsheets or PowerPoint presentations or anything else like that.
He analyzes every trip he takes on a spreadsheet. Old habits. Column by column, it doesn't add up the way it should. I met him outside of Ithaca, where we matched for a ride to the Syracuse airport. So how many times do you think you've driven to the airport?
I've probably driven to the Syracuse airport 500 times.
For a year and a half, Levi drove this route nearly 100 times. For this sample, riders paid a median fare of about $121. Levi's cut before tips around $63. Except some trips paid him $51, others paid $90.
So there was no rhyme or reason why the pay was the pay.
Not even surge pricing. The swings didn't immediately map to anything he could see.
I love efficiency. I enjoy variable pricing. I don't think it's a horribly immoral type of thing.
Levi was just trying to figure out which rides to accept, and he ended up stumbling on something bigger.
I think the most compelling piece of information that came out of it for everybody else was the commercial auto insurance.
Commercial auto insurance. 3 words designed to make you stop watching, which is exactly why they matter so much. Most states require commercial insurance for companies that carry passengers. It pays when things go wrong. Crashes, injuries, lawsuits. When Uber explains rising fares and falling pay, this is the cost they keep on bringing up.
These inflated costs are passed directly to the people who rely on rideshare to get to work, to school, to doctor's appointments, and they're cutting into the earnings of drivers who keep our platform moving.
Riders pay it in, the booking fee, part of the fare. Uber collects it out of the driver's cut. And it's not a nickel or dime.
In Los Angeles County, up to 45% of every fare goes to government-mandated insurance.
That's the claim. Insurance is a hidden cost driving up your fare and pulling down driver pay. According to Uber, it's roughly 20% of the fare across the nation. Commercial insurance is expensive, but if the fee is what Uber says it is, it should track what insurance does. Risk.
This was like the exact same ride over and over and over again on the same road, over and over and over again.
Sometimes Uber charged Levi $13.75 for insurance. Other times, $50.
It's lost the narrative, right? That's not the point of insurance.
For the year, Levi estimates around $20,000 of his fares goes towards commercial car insurance through Uber.
So somebody's getting rich off of it? I don't know who. Not me. Not the passenger.
Levi's spreadsheet landed with Len Sherman, PhD in transportation economics from MIT, decades advising the transportation industry, now Columbia Business School.
Well, I've always been fascinated with Uber. It earned the dubious distinction of having lost more money than any company, any startup in history until OpenAI came along. And now it's turned into a money-making machine.
By the time I got to Manhattan, he'd already ran the numbers on Levi's airport data.
The variance in the commercial insurance rate charge on those 100+ trips varied even more than the price and pay that the drivers and riders are experiencing. And that struck me as odd. That's not how insurance is supposed to work. People with essentially the same type of risk profile should be charged the same amount of premiums that allow
Len's team tested everything that should move an insurance rate.
The year of the trip, did that impact the
No.
fee? The day of the week?
Nope.
The timing of the trip?
Nope.
The service type?
Nope.
What did impact the fee?
2 factors and 2 factors alone, the price of the trip and the driver pay of the trip.
Charge more for the ride, and the insurance goes up with it. Not the risk, the price. Uber disputes this. The company says the fee is based on a trip's risk profile, and that Sherman's analysis is wrong. We'll lay out their full response a bit later. But for this data, the numbers move with the money. Where does it go? Len showed me a chart that may have an answer. Built from data Uber itself provided, 50,000 rides across 3 drivers. This is one driver's history. The pattern holds for all 3. The green line is what you pay for a ride.
The red line, the driver pay, seemed to be moving in lockstep, and that's not a coincidence. There was a fixed proportion that drivers would keep 80 to 85% of what the rider paid.
In 2014, Uber said it out loud, promising drivers 80% of each fare. Then came a new CEO and an IPO to prepare for,
For us, the path to profitability isn't theoretical.
and a stock award worth about $100 million if he could increase the company's value. He needed margins.
He slashed driver pay almost overnight by 30 to 35% across the country. You could see the impact in that red line falling off a cliff.
The space opening up between those lines has a name: the take rate, or Uber's cut.
And it jumped from 15% to almost 40% almost overnight. And as you could see towards the end of the chart, now exceeding 50%. More than half of what you pay as a rider is going to Uber rather than the driver. 50% take rate sort of threshold kind of now passes into the realm of embarrassment. Oh, it doesn't sound good that we're taking more than half.
But 50% is not the number Uber gives the public.
They claim their take rate is under 20%.
50 reported as 20. So where is it hiding? Let me show you. Here's another of Levi's rides to the airport. It's an extreme example. The rider paid $47.21. Taxes and surcharges, $5.96. Levi earned $9.20. Uber's cut, 18%. Just like they say. That's $23.75, barely half the fare. The other half, $23.46, is a single line item. Uber labels it commercial insurance and operating expenses. It's believed that fee is mostly insurance. But who insures Uber, a company with $52 billion in revenue running 11 billion trips a year?
On September 27, 2021, James River Insurance Company entered into a loss portfolio transfer reinsurance agreement with Atalaya Insurance.
Jamie Court is the president of Consumer Watchdog. He's been studying insurance markets for years.
Well, Atalaya Insurance is a wholly owned subsidiary of Uber, and its sole purpose is to self-fund Uber's insurance system. It is nothing more than a department of Uber, if you look at it that way.
A captive insurer in Hawaii.
Captive insurer is an insurance company that is owned by one company to service that one company's insurance claims.
Board of directors entirely current or former Uber executives. 95% of premiums stay inside Uber. Captive insurers are legal, common even. Lyft runs one, also in Hawaii. But this one raises a real question. Why does an insurance fee set by the company collecting it seemingly track price and not risk? That question may have an easy answer.
All we need to see is their books, a basic profit loss statement.
But it's impossible to get from the outside.
Every other insurance company in America has to publish how much they pay out in claims, how much they take in premiums. Atalaya doesn't have to do any of that because its only customer is Uber, and Uber controls Atalaya.
When asked for comment, Uber told us Sherman is wrong, that the fee tracks risk and includes factors like origin city, distance, duration, time of day, and weather. Sherman's analysis controlled for these, or close proxies. The fee still swung from $13.75 to $50, and the only thing it tracked was the fare and the driver's pay. But back to Uber's statement. Uber said its books are externally audited, that some outside insurers price its risk even higher, and that running its own insurance, quote, allows us to decrease the cost of insurance and the associated fees charged to riders. We don't have access to Uber's data and books, but that last claim we can check. Lower insurance costs, lower fees. That's the promise. Uber has spent years and millions in state houses trying to deliver the first half. Last fall, California gave it to them.
If an uninsured motorist hits you now, the most that Uber is responsible for your injuries is $60,000. Previously, it was responsible for a policy for $1 million.
a 94% cut to what Uber owes if someone gets hurt. You already heard the case they made for it.
They said the cost of insurance has gone up. They didn't say they were charging themselves for insurance. Otherwise, the legislature would have asked to see their books and see how much their insurance costs actually were.
What was passing that bill worth to Uber?
It's right in their proxy statement. They actually pay the executives specifically for success on this specific piece of legislation. It says passage of SB 371.
Uber disputes this characterization. They told us that executive compensation is not tied to specific initiatives, but to, quote, broad-based insurance reform efforts, and that the company will continue to unapologetically pursue insurance reform, especially where we see lawsuit abuse that raises prices for consumers. Now, the fight is going national.
Uber got an 11th hour amendment on the Friday before Memorial Day weekend.
The amendment would override state law. It reclassifies Uber as a digital network and ultimately shifts liability above $1 million to the driver, unless Uber was grossly negligent or criminal. And it's retroactive. Survivors and advocates warn it could shield Uber from the 3,600 sexual assault lawsuits it already faces. As of publication, it's still in the bill. If it passes, will driver pay rise and fares fall? We already know the answer. In California, the rideshare industry's insurance cost fell, and Uber executives predicted what would happen next.
A targeted fix to a problem that's quietly making rideshare more expensive for millions of riders.
A gig worker data company tracked what happened across the rideshare industry. In the western region, where California accounts for the majority of the rides, insurance costs dropped 20%. Rider fares increased 3%, while driver pay rose 1%. Insurance got cheaper, your ride didn't.
All the benefit essentially flows to Uber. That's all part of a consistent pattern.
Uber contends that Gridwise's analysis does not reflect rising insurance costs, and California riders are on track to save hundreds of millions in reduced booking fees. So let's step back. The insurance fee Uber blames for your high fare and low driver pay is a number Uber sets, and independent analysis suggests it moves with the money, not the risk. Where that fee goes is a debate. The books are sealed. Uber says they're audited, that nothing is wrong. Back in the car, Levi's thinking about his passengers.
I did an Uber ride last week, and she makes a quarter more than minimum wage. She's spending like $40 on an Uber to get to work. Now this is a short-term thing. Hopefully she solves it.
She pays the fare and the fee. Levi just drives.
Many things can be true at once. I like being an Uber driver. I'm glad the service that Uber provides. Commercial auto insurance, pretty fishy. Yeah, I'm just gonna continue to be the best driver I can be. Give the safest, most professional rides, and hopefully earn a little bit of money.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. If you want to support our journalism so we can create more videos like this one, join our membership program as a paid YouTube subscriber today. You'll get exclusive perks, including invites to members-only live streams with the More Perfect Union team. And if you work in the insurance industry around risk and pricing, we'd love to talk. Email us at stories@perfectunion.us.